I thought I'd put some glasses on and maybe a 𝗘𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗀 as well to talk about procrastination and 3 reasons why I think we procrastinate. So what is procrastination? It's a fancy word for basically saying that we're putting something off, right? I procrastinate when I need to go do a run. I particularly procrastinate when I need to go and do a hard run, right? When I know it's going to be difficult. And I do as many other things as possible before I start the run because I'm procrastinating. I'm putting it off. I know what's going to be involved. I know the work that is going to be required of me. I know the effort that's going to be required of me. And I'm like, oh God, if I do other things instead, then maybe I won't have time to do it. And then I'm just kind of delaying the inevitable, really, because ultimately that thing that I'm procrastinating from doing needs to be done. And you're just kind of delaying it, or I'm personally delaying, like say the run that I did the other day, where I was procrastinating before having to go and do a 5K blast in terms of what my coach had set me. And yeah, if we look at procrastinating right now, it is rife. I know it's rife in terms of, if you look at the 4 pillars of health that I coach out on in terms of movement, nutrition, mindset, and getting stronger. If you just look at the first thing, the movement, right? If we look at exercise, we're all master procrastinators when it comes to getting moving, okay? The law is that the longer you leave it, the harder it is generally going to be for you to do your exercise, right? That's why our Morning Warriors program is so popular, because it gets all of our clients, all of our morning warriors, to do their exercise first thing in the morning. Then they have no chance of actually procrastinating for the rest of the day. Whereas it can be difficult for a lot of people to muster up that motivation to do that thing, to do the exercise, to get moving at the end of the day, because they've already had so many decisions that they've already had to make, so much mental space that has already been taken by all of the decisions that they've had to make all day, leading up to, okay, I've finished work now, I said I was going to go and exercise, you know, that first pillar of the 4 key pillars of health. And instead of exercising, they're going to find as many jobs as they can in the house. So they'll go and do the hoovering. The record collection will need alphabetizing at that very second. Or, you know, you need to rearrange your sock drawer suddenly. Or the books need changing around into color order, whatever it is. We're all like master procrastinators when it comes to doing the thing that we need to do, or finding 1,000,001 other things that we could be doing that are going to ultimately stop us from doing the thing that we need to do. All right, so I'm here to talk about the 3 reasons why we procrastinate. And the first one is that justification that we give ourselves. It's like, okay, back to the example of my 5K run, I could have justified to myself that I didn't have time to do that 5K run because I was so busy doing all these other jobs all of a sudden that I just found, right? So the first one is justification, justifying it to ourselves that because we were too busy doing other things, 101 other things, our time just, it just disappeared, and I suddenly didn't have time to go and do this 5K run. That's one way I could have approached it. And yeah, it happens to everyone. It happens to everyone. And I think it boils down to eating that frog is the best way of finding your way past procrastination, I find, in terms of getting it done as soon as you can, in terms of getting moving. So there's a book that I read, and her first name's Mel. I can't remember her second name, but basically she came up with the 5-second rule, and she wrote a whole book on it, basically. And she basically says her approach is, if you think of something that you're going to do, act within 5 seconds, because after that 5 seconds, your brain will take over and do as much as it can to keep you still and find 1,000,001 other things to do it, right? So case in point, my 5K, I could have procrastinated. I could have found 101 things to do other than go running in the house, but instead it took me less than 5 seconds to get moving, to go and get my kit on. It didn't take me 5 seconds, but I started the action, the process of getting my kit on, so that then before I knew it, I was out of the door, rather than leaving it more than 5 seconds, because then all of these things, suddenly other options kind of appear in my head, and then off you go. I'm then procrastinating, and I'm finding 101 other things to do, or that I could be using my time with, instead of doing the thing that I said I would. Okay, so that is the first reason I find as to why we procrastinate, and that is to justify to ourselves that we didn't have the time, or we couldn't do that other thing that we said we were going to do because we were doing these other things, right? We're putting it off by putting other things into priority. We're bringing other things into priority, which we know deep down aren't actually priorities, but we're gonna do them because they're kind of easy wins, as opposed to the thing that is going to take a lot more effort but will actually be to our benefit in the long term. Okay, so that is the first reason why we procrastinate. The second reason is that it's an avoidance tactic, right? It's an avoidance tactic that we can all use in terms of the amount of overthinking that we give some subjects or some tasks that we give ourselves. So leaning back to, say, the second pillar of health that I talk about and coach on, and that is getting a handle on your nutrition, right? Procrastination on nutrition could be something as simple as I'm not going to plan my food, or I didn't have time to plan my food because I had all these other plates that I needed to juggle in my day, and it'll just take too much time to sit down and plan all my food for the rest of the week. I'll just grab something on the way, right? I'll just grab something. And you then get into this spiral of overthinking things. And again, it comes back to justifying to yourselves. It's like, you're overthinking it. You're thinking about, when it comes to nutrition, you're thinking, okay, which recipe shall I do? Like, what kind of food shall I eat? Where shall we go for shopping? What are we going to actually have as recipes? Which ingredients shall we get? What theme are we doing this week? All these questions. If you overthink it, it'll never happen, and you get to avoid doing the thing that ultimately is going to be to your own benefit. Okay, so overthinking it, I think, is overrated and is an avoidance tactic. Ultimately, we're using procrastination as an avoidance tactic to stop us from doing the thing, from putting the effort in, from doing the work that we know deep down is essential, but that we're holding ourselves back from actually doing. Okay, and the third reason that we use procrastination, or the third reason that we procrastinate, is that we do it to self-sabotage. Procrastination is knowingly doing something even though we know that it's going to have negative consequences. Like, rearranging your sock drawer might not necessarily have a negative consequence, other than, you can actually get to the socks that you want to straight away. But in terms of it's the knock-on effect. Okay, you've got your sock drawers done, But if you go back to the nutrition analogy, it's like, okay, I got my socks done, but I didn't actually sort out what I'm going to be doing with my nutrition this week, or I didn't get round to tracking my calories this week because I was too busy doing 101 of these other things. And we can use procrastination as self-sabotage in terms of we're choosing the easier route. We're choosing the easier options rather than the hard thing. Because invariably, procrastination comes up when there's this hard thing, there's this elephant in the room that we know we have to do, but instead of doing that hard thing, instead of eating that frog, so to speak, another great book, what we're doing is picking off the easy wins instead, or picking off other completely unrelated things instead, because we're justifying, we're avoiding, and we're knowingly self-sabotaging by going off and doing those things instead of doing the thing that actually matters. Okay, so in summary, they're the 3 reasons why I think we procrastinate. Because we use it as a justification for not doing something else. We use it as an avoidance tactic for not doing that thing that we know we need to do. And the 3rd reason is that we use it as a way to self-sabotage. It's like self-sabotage in terms of holding ourselves back from getting the results that we know we could actually do by doing something else. So where in your life right now are you using procrastination in one of those 3 ways? To justify, to avoid, or to self-sabotage? Ask yourself that question. And yeah, it gives you so much clarity, and it requires self-awareness for when it's happening, but it can be so powerful when you realize you're doing it, because the more you attack your procrastinating ways or your own procrastination, the more you suddenly get done, and the easier it becomes in the long term. So if, it's like anything, it's like a habit. If you're in the habit of procrastinating, then the more you attack that habit and take the route or the approach where you just do something within 5 seconds, or get the body moving within 5 seconds. If you're thinking about something, it's going to be much better for you, because it's going to be like any muscle or habit that you train over time, whereby it becomes easier. You'll find that you're procrastinating less, and then that you actually progress more and get closer to whatever it is that you're working on, because ultimately we only have so much time. Like, one thing that has come out and that is really clear to me with everything that's gone on is that you can't take yourself too seriously. Another thing that's come out is that a lot of things that used to seem to be important aren't actually that important, is one realization that I've had. And it's more important to just focus on looking after yourself and coming out of all of this feeling like just being more aware, just being more self-aware of what is going on and who you spend your time with, and what you ultimately have control in terms of what you do with the time that you have. Poignant finish, but what I'm trying to get at is that procrastinating is just a waste of all of our time, really, and the quicker we can get over it, the more that we can do, and therefore the more we can be, have, and enjoy, really, everything else in life that procrastination stands in the way of. What are your thoughts? Let me know below.